Welcome to the check-in show where a couple of friends hang out on their lunch breaks and talk about how they're feeling living under increasing authoritarianism. I'm Jared Yates. I'm here with my good friend Danielle Moodie. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
How you doing?
I am not well today. I just what I was saying before. I did TV over the weekend and then I did TV this morning. And when I say do TV, I mean MSNBC. And the segment before mine was all about the fact that the Supreme Court is getting ready to just eliminate the Voting Rights Act, which was the biggest accomplishment of the civil rights movement 60 years ago. And as I'm listening to the reporter on the ground and I'm listening to the anchor in the chair and I'm, waiting for my turn, which is in the next segment to talk about the shutdown. And all I think about is like the gamification of our lives and the fact that there is nothing that I'm going to say that is going to alter anything. And that we have just gotten to a place in our body politic and in this country where like I am really losing steam to care because everything it's just like, okay, so people are going to be mobilized this weekend. They're going to, go out on October 18th up for No King's Day. And I did an interview earlier in the week that's up right now with my friend, and you may know her. She's a professor, Dr. Christina Greer. She teaches at Fordham books and is on TV as well. And she goes, I don't really care about October 18th. I want to know what people are doing on October 19th, right? Like everyone is organized for this day, this show of force. And I'm just like, And I agree. I think that shows of force are important. I think that people realizing that they're not alone and being in connected physical space with people is important. But if we don't have a plan for October 19th and onward, then what the fuck are we doing? Right? And as I was sitting in the seat waiting for, my turn to speak this morning, and we're talking about the shutdown, and they're like, well, both sides have really dug their heels in. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? You have a fascist Republican regime that is ensuring that we solidify a caste system in this country that Black and brown people are at the bottom of, that don't have health care, that are literally going to be dying in parking lots, which we've already saw with the rolling back of Roe v. Wade with the Dobbs decision in the summer of 2022. Now you're telling us, oh, people need to vote, but you're legally allowing discrimination and gerrymandering to come in when it serves you. But then when it serves us to be able to use our race for our full experience, you tell us that we can't do that and you've got affirmative action. And it's just like every single time that we are being told, like, we need to be activated, we need to do X, Y, and Z, you have these forces that are in place to ensure that it doesn't matter how loud we get. It doesn't matter how many people show up to march. It doesn't matter how many people vote because they're going to be sending ICE agents to all of the polling stations with AR-15s pointed at our fucking heads or throwing tear gas into the crowd. They invaded a fucking Walgreens in Chicago this week. Just come in full fucking Gestapo, full force. People are shopping. They have their kids in there. Jared, there are points that I reach and it's like my cup runneth over right now, and it's not running over with hope. It is not running over with resistance style strategies. It is running over with this heavy grief that is just in the pit, in the core of my being, where I'm like, what is my purpose right now? What the fuck are we doing? Right? Like I'm struggling to pay bills and knowing that my health care is either going to be gone or it's going to get to a place that is absolutely unaffordable. I told people the other day, because I have no problem in sharing this, my healthcare is $700 a month. That is in the marketplace for shit healthcare. It's $700 a month. Do I look like a millionaire to anybody? That is something that is not a problem, right? And I'm just, I just, that's it. How am I feeling? I feel very fucked today. That's how I feel, Jerry. I
So
feel very fucked today.
you just brought up so many of the essential components of this, and I want to weave them all together because everything you just said is exactly right and also reveals something else. But before I do that, because we're modeling communications and we're modeling like what it is to work through this and like be present. I want people who just watch that to look to think about how what just happened with you. You started off very flat, right? You were feeling down, right? And what happened as you started to discuss what was actually going on, you went up, right?
Yeah.
And you got increasingly pissed off. And why did you get pissed off? Because you have a right to be pissed off, right? And so
Yeah.
what you just brought up, and we don't have to get too far in the weeds, but
Mhm.
as a couple of people who have appeared on television multiple times, you know, thank you for inviting us on all of this stuff. You have to go on TV and you have to address the news as if like one of the earliest
Yes.
get for going on TV is don't move too much, don't raise your voice, be very calm, be very still. And what is that? It's performing civility in the face of fucking insanity.
Come on.
And so, what are we told to do? We're told in order to go along with the systems of power that we have to comport ourselves in a certain way. And guess what? The shit that's going on is fucked up. It is fucked up and infuriating and wrong, and civility doesn't fucking cut it. So, what just happened for anybody who's just watched that? You went from a place where you were having to perform civility in the
Right.
face of fucking madness, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons why people don't really watch corporate news anymore.
Yeah.
It's because the entirety of it is built on normalizing this stuff. And you read like a New York Times article and they're oh man, they're so careful when they talk about this shit, aren't they? They're so careful whenever they're trying to use the right words because they're trying to seem impartial. And meanwhile, what are they doing? They're giving more and more normality to this shit. What you just brought up also brings another instance of all of this, which is you brought up the No Kings protest. And listen, what do we do on here? We talk about uncomfortable things, but we're being honest.
Yeah.
And back when the first No Kings protest happened, the largest one-day protest in American history, I said to people, it's not a bad thing for people to get together and meet one another and make a show of resistance of these things.
Mm-hmm.
The question is whether or not it's going to happen as a means of organizing something and change
Right.
something,
Right.
or if it's a one-day opportunity for people to vent and feel like they're doing something. And what is the problem in the United States of America right now? We've touched on it a little bit. It's dissociation and depersonalization. It is a lot of people who watch news, consume news. They're not dealing with the reality of what's going on. They're looking at it as a spectator sport. I used to call it Chuck Toddism, right? It's like
Mm.
talking to the people who are hurting you and just being like, that's a great point. He made a great point there because it's a game, right? Because it doesn't affect them. They have the money, they have the power, they have the influence, they have protection right now. So, what are we being drawn into? We're being drawn into a collective dissociation, which is a group of people, and it's all across the spectrum. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to pay attention to this. It's too upsetting. Other people are like, oh, yeah, it'll get taken care of. I'm sure. I keep seeing people that are like, oh, the Trump administration will do the 25th Amendment. No, they fucking won't. No, they fucking won't. Unless it's a coup, and then that's not good.
Not
Then
great.
everyone's like, oh, we'll wait for the midterms. We'll wait for the next election. Okay, that's magical thinking. Like
Yep.
literally every single day, this shit is being normalized. They're going into these places. They're gassing playgrounds. They're literally kidnapping children. They're literally grabbing children that like their parents don't know where they are. Depersonalization, and I've realized this, and it was a light bulb went off. When you live in a fascist society, when you're wearing the armband, when you're looking at the swastikas, when you're living in that, you are living in it as if you're not existing in it. It's another person. You're not making these choices. You're just making your way through the world. Dissociation leads to depersonalization. And what is happening in this country is that the people who know better are like, oh, this is really disturbing. I don't want to deal with this. And meanwhile, you and me and the people watching this and the people who pay actual attention to this and care about it and see, you and I both know people who are being hurt by this.
Yep.
We know people who are living in terror because of this. And we're like, no, this isn't fucking okay. You have to fucking do something. Snap out of it, do something. And you brought up the protest. I think it's a good thing for people to get out and show each other that there are other people who care about this stuff. It can't end there.
No.
We have been taught to be performative in this, which goes back to what we were talking about in terms of like going on the news or having a conversation in public. That's one of the reasons I appreciate this so much. We're being real and human and vulnerable. And that isn't sitting as straight as possible and not making movements and not raising your voice. This is a fucked up situation, and it's done that we should be done performing for it. There's no room anymore to perform like any of this is normal.
I think that I like you articulated it so well, because I honestly believe that is what has driven me over the edge this morning.
How could it?
Is that I woke up to give a performance that will absolutely change nothing. And it was one of the reasons why I stopped doing TV in the first place, because I said I would rather have real, authentic conversations and rage with people who want to be engaged, who don't need their news and commentary sugar-coated, who don't need you to take a pause and like fix your hair and do a thing in order to bring some legitimacy to what's happening. And I'm just like, this is what is happening day in and day out. I've said this over and over again. When we were learning in school about the fall of the Roman Empire, it never occurred to me that while Rome was falling, that people were working, that people were just going along with their everyday. The way that it was taught was like, well, the Roman Empire fell on Monday. And then on Tuesday, there was an entirely new government and structure and no one was the wiser. And we just kind of moved through this chronological, way of like societies changing and evolving. Meanwhile, I'm like, we are being gaslit all day, every fucking day. And then in between the gaslight of, oh, everything is fine. Oh, midterms will save us. Oh, there are some good Republicans. Oh, this is fine. This is okay. Between like that, fucking, oh, AI deciding to now invent eroticism so that people just further detach from one another. And now you can have erotic conversations with AI, which, by the way, I found out yesterday, 1 in 5 high school kids is now engaging in. And I'm like, so we're just fucked in the future. And then I'm like, we're going along with that. The rise of AI, the downfall of our government, the rise of fascism, and my light bill is still due.
Yes.
And my rent is still due. And I'm still supposed to like go to people's birthday parties while I still can. And in the back of my head, I'm just like, every knock and every footstep that I hear, I'm wondering if it's ICE raiding my building. And then I'm being told that if I'm having those feelings, that I'm being hyperbolic. Oh, Danielle, they're not there. They're not there right now. Right? But every helicopter that passes over my building, I'm like, is this the Black Hawk? Is this now my time? So I'm just like, and we're just supposed to continue to go along as normal. I'm supposed to sit properly in a chair on TV and think that I'm fortunate to be called on to tell people what exactly. I feel today, I feel insane. I feel absolutely fucking crazy. And I'm just like, I don't know if more people feel this way, where they are like having emotional breakdowns every morning, wiping away tears in the bathroom at work on their break, and then going back to sit down in their cubicles and like, just get the things done. But you've talked about this so many times, the soul killing nature of all of this. And it's like I feel like my soul is leaving my body. being around all of this depravity, watching it, the depravity legalized, right? Recognizing that society, and I mean global society, has learned absolutely nothing, right? To learn nothing from the Holocaust, learn nothing from apartheid, learn nothing from the Vietnam War. We have learned absolutely nothing. We've just added new technology to old depravity. And here we are.
100%. And something, it's funny. And again, like, I understand that not everybody watching this is like the type of person who has had to go on TV. I knew the jig was up when Mehdi got fired.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was the moment, because
Yeah.
Mehdi got on and talked about actual shit, right? Like, I when I started talking about capitalism, the invites dried up because they don't want you to talk about what's actually going on, right? And the moment that he got fired, I was like, oh, that's it. That's not going to happen. And what you just described, it's this old pull that so many of us have had to live in our entire lives. Because again, this didn't just erupt with Donald Trump. This is something that we were raised in. This was something that we were taught to perform in. This is something that we were taught to exist in and not question. And what's more, I'm so glad you brought up the AI thing, because I knew it was heading in that direction. Because what is AI? AI is the drug that we keep talking about. It's a narcissistic mirror. And if anybody has ever used it, I was talking with a friend of mine about this. Like, everything that you ask, it's like, oh, that is so brilliant. That is like one of the most insightful things that I've ever heard. It's just a soothing voice that repeats back to you what it is that you're thinking, right? Because we live in an increasingly uncomfortable and friction society. And when it comes to AI announcing they're suddenly going to start making pornography for people,
Yes.
Danielle, that
Unregulated pornography that kids can access
right.
at any point.
So let's actually talk about that for a second, because I think there's an insight here that's important. So what do we have in this country? And you've read the articles other people have. They're like, it's so hard for young men to find partners now. Do you know why it's hard for young men to find partners? Because they're fucking assholes. And because women are saying, hey, you're not standing up for me as my rights are being taken away. We're in a misogynistic society, and like, you're not like stepping against that. All of a sudden, I can't sit around and do that the way that maybe housewives were doing in the 1950s and 1960s. So what's happening now? Those young men are now being given robot girlfriends. That's what's happening. And why? Because they're not going to fight with them. They're not going to push back against them. They're going to give them what I'm starting to call a frictionless existence.
Yeah.
And a frictionless existence. And think about the internet, right, Danielle? It starts, and we're supposed to go out and meet a bunch of people. Oh my God, I'm finding people like me. Oh, we're having fights in here. I'm done with that. I'm moving over here. And we increasingly get smaller and smaller until we don't want to deal with other people. What do we want to deal with? Robots that have been programmed not to fight with us. Robots that have been programmed to tell us that we're right. Narcissism machines. And what we're talking about here, and for the record, if anybody has ever watched cable news, what actually goes viral, it's when somebody says, hey, fuck you, you're wrong. And that's awful, and that's racist, and that's sexist, and that's fascist. Because that's what people want at this point, because they recognize that something is wrong. What is that, Danielle? It's friction. The friction of saying this is literally insane. And so what is happening right now is every capitalist incentive is moving towards more and more insanity. That's the next level of this thing, is not two people. And for the record, like, I trust you. You are my friend. I value these conversations. We're being real in a way that, like, there might be a time on one of these live streams at some point where one of us says, I don't know if I agree with that. Right? I like that. We're mostly on the, I think we're like 99% on the same page. But there might be a time where there will be some friction. And what is that, Danielle? It's an opportunity to learn and grow.
Right.
That's what being a human is about. So the antidote to all of this is more humanity. It's
less.
more connection, more intimacy, more friction to become better, as opposed to retreating to our addictions and retreating to dissociation and where that eventually leads and checking out. And what you described, and I feel it too, it's like sometimes you get on one of these things And like I've been in an interview before where in the middle of the interview I'm like, oh my God, like I'm not even like in this. I'm just
Right.
saying what I think I'm supposed to
Right.
say, or I'm performing a version of myself. I'm masking, right? To borrow an
Mm-hmm.
autistic term because I'm
Mm-hmm.
autistic. But what we're actually talking about is the difference between going along in an increasingly insane society because all the financial incentives are there, or starting to be real and risking everything, which is how this system was set up in the first place to keep us from being human, period.
We cannot think that we are going to be able to grow, shift, and expand without friction.
No.
Like, we cannot get to this place where we are allowing the tech oligarchs to further distance us from one another by creating artificial intimacy, by creating this, like you say, it's so perfect, this frictionless existence where you don't have to learn anything, right? Like everything is baby food right now. Everything is literally being chewed up and spit into your mouth, and all you have to do is tilt your head back. You don't even have to swallow.
Right.
And I don't think that people understand what is happening to our brains, what is happening to our spirit, what is happening to our connection when we give ourselves over to these things. I believe that AI can be a tool that could actually help humanity, not replace humanity, not
Right.
replace human connection, right? Like not replace our ability to learn from one another, to debate one another, to grow from one another. And you have to understand, like, the institutions and the things that are being attacked and created right now is all about keeping us away from ourselves and keeping us away from each other.
All of it.
Everything that is being done right now, whether it is in the sanitizing of our secondary education schooling, getting rid of certain curriculum, getting rid of clubs, getting rid of the connection that forms with young people when they are forced to live, learn, and create together. Right? Like getting rid of those things and in their place, putting in these sanitized, scrubbed, and voided places, right? That are void of emotion, that are void of interest, and just feeding you this constant loop of everything that you already know, justifying how you already are and telling you that you don't need to grow anymore. You don't need to think, like how you are is how you are. And I'm thinking to myself, my fucking God, how boring. How
Boring.
boring to live
Boring.
in an existence where you think that you know everything right the fuck now, then die. Right? Like, if there is nothing else to learn, to create, to enjoy, to experience, then, like, what the fuck are we doing? That is life.
Yeah.
That is what it means to be living. And
Yep.
we are handing over the living portion over to these oligarchic tools that are literally working to deprive us and disconnect us from our own humanity and from each other. And I'm just like, and so many people, Jared, just are so willing to sleepwalk through their lives, and they knew it. And they developed a product in order to make it okay for you to continue sleepwalking through your life.
100%. And it's all throughout because it's so funny, Danielle. Like you brought up like the fall of the Roman Empire. When I wrote my last book, I was like, I want to understand the fall of the Roman Empire. I would like I started there, I started with Rome and then moved to now, and I didn't know because I thought the same thing as you. I thought that Rome got sacked and that was it, right?
Yeah,
But it
I was like, oh, it's a wrap.
went on for a long time. And there were more and more corrupt and authoritarian leaders. And you know what happened around them, Danielle? Cults. It was one cult after another because the human mind, when it becomes so uncomfortable, it trends towards, I don't want to be uncomfortable. Sell me some bullshit and I'll believe it. That's fine. I'll join your cult. Just, I don't want to think about it. It's so uncomfortable. And now you bring it to this modern era. There's a reason why they're anti science. There's a reason why they're anti fact because they don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with the complexity of life. They don't want to And by the way, I think it's important in the midst of this because all of this is heavy. Life is the most fucking amazing thing that there is. Like, what a fucking amazing thing that this is. Like, I go through these periods of time. I become so interested in things. Like a few years ago, I was like, I think I understand weather, but I don't understand weather. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand what weather does. I know this, I know that. Like, I have instincts around it. And just for a summer, I went to the library every day and just fucking read about weather because I wanted to understand it. You know what? Like, that might sound boring to people. Weather's a fucking miracle. Like, it really is the way that this thing works, and you take it for granted. And then there are days, even the people like us who are talking about this and are so into this shit, like you take for granted the majesty of being alive.
Yeah.
And for a while, if you get overwhelmed, if you're not careful, you get into this like gear or mode where you just want happiness fed to you, but it's not happiness.
Happiness.
You
Mm-mm.
can't be happy without the tough things. You can't grow without friction and conflict. You can't become a better version of yourself if you're not tested. If
No.
all you want is a mirror that tells you what you want to hear, eventually you're going to die inside because you can't sustain on that.
And I'm like, but all you have to do is look at the person that is in charge right now who is literally modeling that. Look at Donald Trump's entire existence. 79 years old, of being given everything that you could ever possibly want, of being told that you were great, that you were smart, that you were this, that you were that, never having to work for anything, never having to have any challenges in life whatsoever that would shift your perspective or your experience.
No, and that's and it's amazing that you bring that up because there's a couple of things to pay attention to with this. One, this guy doesn't even work to be president. He didn't
No,
want to be president.
nope.
He just wanted the attention, became president, doesn't do the daily work of it, doesn't appreciate. He's the fucking president of the United States of America. Like he could change things. What does he
Yeah.
care? He cares about being awarded. What is he talking about? His picture on Time magazine that he doesn't like. And there's cracks that are showing all of a sudden because he's dying. We're all dying. He's dying. These weird little moments where he's talking about, I don't think I'm going to get into
Going
heaven.
to heaven. Yep.
Or there's this weird moment yesterday where out of nowhere, he starts talking about his body, right? He starts talking about like how he feels about his body and maybe it doesn't look as good as Joe Biden's. There are cracks that take place here, Danielle. And the cracks are this.
Oh.
The people who are lost in that cycle of things being fed back to them, they are fucking miserable. They are
Yes.
miserable. Everything that he says is misery. And so what is actually happening at this point? And I don't say this lightly. People like Donald Trump have given us a gift. They have given us the gift of seeing where this leads. What it is that we can become if we give into this. We are not happy doing this. We are not happy living like this. Nobody should be given everything. Nobody. It makes you weak. It makes you boring. It crushes your soul in a different way. And that's why they want to crush our souls. Because the spark in us, the curiosity, the love, the sex, the intimacy, that bothers them because they see it and they see what they could be. So they want to destroy it. That's why they hate gay people and trans people.
I was just gonna say that is exactly why they hate trans people so much.
They hate them so much because they have the courage to be who they are.
Yep.
That's why they hate black and brown people. Because even though those people have been oppressed, they still find space for joy and hope. That's why they hate quote unquote woke people, because we're able to hold multiple things at once. We're able to have complexity and therefore joy. This is not a happy group of people. It's fucking insanity. And the fact that they were ever able to gain power, it reflects that the culture is sick and that it has been sick for a very long time. And so what we're talking about is the anger and frustration of this obvious insanity, not just winning, but being the main baseline for American society.
I think that is what makes me so sad and grief stricken is you can see that these people are miserable.
Mm.
You can see that they thrive in unhappiness and in darkness. And so many people willingly gave them the opportunity to spread that darkness and that hate. And I think to myself, what is wrong with us? Like, what is wrong with humanity? Right? That, like, we can be taught so many things, see the parallels that are playing out right now in front of us. And yet, tens of millions of Americans said they wanted this. Like, there are people that are, just the videos and the images, just whether it's Gaza or Chicago or Portland or New York City, it's just, I didn't know that we had as humans the capacity for this level of consistent heartbreak.
Yep.
Like, really, genuinely, this country, John Pavlovitz, who's on Substack, he wrote this piece that I just briefly looked at before he came on that said the last 10 years have been like a funeral procession, he called it. He's like, it's saying goodbye to not only this country, but to people, your colleagues, your family, your siblings, your cousins, your students, people who you thought you knew,
Yep.
who are now wrapped up in this cult where they are applauding children being drugged out of their homes, half naked and zip tied in the streets, and they're American citizens, but they're applauding that. Like, I knew that we were so broken when you turn the murder of George Floyd into a challenge on social media, and the owners of social media who will now scrub content that is pro-Palestinian, let that shit play out.
Yep.
Didn't cancel people's accounts, didn't stop them from, like, I'm just like, or is it this many sociopaths that are in the world? Like, is it like this many moralist people
Yep.
that we surround ourselves with, that walk amongst us, that we thought that the majority of us were heart-filled, soul-filled people, and that what this reveals, this unveiling that is happening, is that no, that it is a world that is filled to the brim with sociopathic tendencies and depravity? Like, I just don't, like, I honestly, I don't know. I don't know. But I feel there is a hole inside of me today. There is like this hole that is inside of me that feels so, like, hollow.
Yep.
And it kills me because I'm like, this is exactly what it is that they have wanted. This is their strategy. This is their purpose. But I don't know how you stop this hollowing out that is happening with this shovel of grief that is literally scooping me out from the inside out.
Well, first of all, I'm so grateful for you to put it that way, because I think that is something that a lot of us are feeling, and it's hard talking about that. And especially, I mean, like, what you and I think are trying to model for people is like actual revolutionary conversation. Like, what is it that people feel, and how is it that the experience takes place? And I want to start with something you said. Whenever I used to teach writing, I used to talk to people and I would ask, what is horror? Right? And people would say, oh, it's the fear that you could be hurt. And I would say that that's true, but it's also realizing that you thought you were safe and you weren't.
Yeah.
And I want people to think about, like, the old idea of, like, in a movie, like, a couple of people are watching TV and the killer is coming up behind them. They're comfortable, they feel good. Meanwhile, their life is at risk. You think about people in your life who used to be your friends, or you used to be in relationships with, or family members or community members, and you thought you could trust them. And then later on, you figured out, like, I shouldn't have trusted that person. They hurt me. They took advantage of me, like all of those things, right? We have to be able to process the fact that a lot of us I keep hearing this from people. This isn't the country I thought I lived in.
Yeah.
Well, it was. It 100% was. People who say this isn't the United States of America, this isn't what America. No, this is what America has been since the very fucking beginning. Period. Right? Some people know that, some people don't. We have to be able, first of all, to forgive ourselves for feeling that way. And for feeling like you just said, like how many of these people are there out there? A lot. A lot.
Yeah.
And not just because they themselves are sociopaths or narcissists. It's because this is a culture that breeds narcissists and sociopaths. It rewards them. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And right now, not only is it that there's so much abuse that's taking place, there is, and the disconnect that is very, very large is that all, like our media, corporate media, our politicians, they're owned by the wealthy. Like they are owned and bought and paid for by the wealthy. So what are we seeing when we turn on the news? What are we seeing when we read mainstream news? It's people gaslighting us on behalf of the wealthy people who are carrying this out, right? Meanwhile, the truth is there is a massive consensus for what we talk about. You actually look at the polls, the vast majority of Americans now belong to what would be referred to as the extreme left, right? That want better lives, that don't want health insurance to destroy us, that don't want this culture of misery and abuse. They're trying to get rid of popular consent. That's what's happening right now. They're trying to gaslight it and dress it up. We have to be able to forgive ourselves for thinking that there was something else going on that was actually happening, for putting ourselves in danger. And we don't have to get into specifics. How many times in your life have you put yourself in danger?
Yeah.
And you have to forgive yourself for putting yourself in danger and for putting yourself in these situations while also practicing what I'm starting to refer to as reverse gratitude, which is gratitude for these motherfuckers for showing me what I don't want to do.
I know.
Thank you for showing me
Who you
how
are.
to be a person and how not to live life. And there's grief in that, but there's also opportunity because Danielle, that begs the next question, which is, how do I want to live? Do I want to show up authentically? Do I want to connect with other people? Do I want to build community? Do I want to change this world? Or do I want to slip further and further and further into a capitalistic warm bath that I will drown in? Because that's what happens when you take that addiction to that point. Eventually, it will destroy you. And that process of grief and reverse gratitude and determining what you want and what you need is the essence of it. And I'm not perfect at it. I am not perfect at it whatsoever. I'm still learning to ask for what I need and what I want. There's a person watching this shaking their head like vigorously at this point. But it is a process that we now have to teach ourselves as we become who we always were and what we always needed to be.
There is, and I too, I think that one of the things that saved me and my psyche during the last 5 years, and for folks who don't know, over the last 5 years, I went through a heartbreaking divorce, went through a horrible diagnosis with my mother being diagnosed with a brain tumor. Thank God it was benign. And we all went through COVID together. The last 5 years were like horrible, right? And what got me through was, one, developing a serious gratitude practice and not just a like Lululemon, version of like capitalistic self-care, but a serious like meditative practice, a walking practice, and a gratitude practice of not just being grateful, like you say, for what it is that you have, right? But being grateful to have the vision to see people for who they are, right? And I think, and I've said this so many times, and I agree with you, it is being able to look at what is happening. And in some cases, as an observer, to pull yourself out of the pain of the experience of it, to observe it from a higher place and say, we needed this. Because too many of us, and myself included until the last 5 years, were in fact sleepwalking through our lives.
Yep.
assuming that government would just continue to work, assuming your marriage would continue to work without any intentional action, right? And what this is calling for, what this rise of fascism is calling for, what this rise of artificialness is calling for is intentionality about how we want to live and about who we want to be. Because they are showing us, they are creating the scaffolding for us just to exist as shells of ourselves, plugged into whatever streaming thing, whatever thing that they want us to be plugged into. So the fight then is not just in resistance to, it's in the creation of a life that is built around intentional connection with yourself and with other people, intentional existence. And I'm just like, and there are too many people who want to push that away because they believe that the intention, that gratitude should all just be about the stickers that you can put up in your fucking house. And like, every day should feel like your birthday, the 4th of July, and, and Christmas wrapped up into one. And it's just like, that's not reality. That's a toddler's version of reality, right? Because reality is about wanting to grow. And like you said earlier, growth only comes from friction. It doesn't come from the absence of bad things happening. That's not why you meditate. Oh, I'm trying to rise above the bad things. No, it's so that I have the foundation that when unfortunate things are inevitably going to happen, that I have the mindset that allows me to meet those moments where they are, right? And not just try and move past them or numb myself to them, but actually meet it and see it. And I'm just like, too many people, they don't want to look at themselves, like I say all the time. White America refuses to look at itself. And when a mirror is placed in front of them, they will shatter it and throw the shards at everybody else, right? We are here because white people thought to themselves, what Donald Trump said was true. I will be okay. Go after everyone else and my life will be perfect. And now they're realizing that they are duped, but because they're so 10 toes down for the bullshit, they're not willing to recognize, you know what? Life is about making mistakes and being able to pivot, right? Not being right 100% of the fucking time. So I just, I feel like what we need, Jared, and what you and I try and model is like deep humanity, deep authenticity, deep vulnerability, because that's the only way that we're going to get through, not around, but through this and come out on the other side of whatever this is, fortified in our humanity, not devoid of it.
100%. And there's so many threads that I want to get to very, very quickly, and we can have larger conversations about them later. The explanation, like what you just brought up, like you brought up, like not just like deep humanity and deep vulnerability, but like deep politics is actually taking all this into consideration. Like there's a reason. So like the GOP, MAGA, all of that, they're children. That's the answer to all of this. They're literally in an arrested state of development because of everything that they've gone through, what's been given to them. Like, take, for instance, cultural artifacts. There's a reason that the Cybertruck looks like it does. It looks like a child drew it because it's for children. It's what children think that something should look like. There's a reason why so many of these right-wing figures get busted abusing children, because they're children. Because they don't want a friction-based relationship with adults. That's why that takes place. That's why they have all these conspiracy theories, is because it's just them trying to make stories for themselves without investigating the deeper things. And you brought up the people who are getting disenchanted with MAGA. Danielle, I tried to write about this the other day. I want to say it again as best as possible. I keep seeing mainstream personalities and pundits that are like, oh, the schism's happening in MAGA. They're not going to join the Democratic Party. They're going to go to Nazis. That's where they're going. They're going to Nick Fuentes. They're going to Tucker Carlson. They're not going to suddenly wake up and be like, yeah, I think everybody deserves rights. They're going to become more extreme. People write me all the time, like, what happens if Donald Trump dies? Maybe the spell will break. No, he's not the spell. He is the person who took advantage of what's going on. It just so happens that he's shameless enough to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
There are more people who are shameless enough to take advantage of this. And some of them are more serious and some of them are more dangerous. And if we're not careful, we're going to look back on the Trump era and say, oh, that was actually less dangerous. That's the problem.
Shit.
That's the problem. And if you bring all of this forward and you look at all of this, the answer is not just its intentionality, but it's making a decision to be a human. And what is being an adult? It's making decisions. And it's looking at what's in front of you and deciding not what's just best for you, but what's best for other people. I want to give one one little anecdote here.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's going to seem small, but it's not. You know, I go on a run every day, and you know what I see all the time, Danielle? I see people who have taken their dogs for walks, and they get the bag with the excrement, and they just leave it on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Or you go to the grocery store, and someone has just left the shopping cart, like in a, you know what I'm talking about? Just like
In the
left,
parking spot or like, yeah.
right? Or you go in the store, and everything's everywhere because people have just grabbed it and put it whatever. That decision that I don't want to deal with this thing, somebody else will deal with it. That is the problem in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of people who don't make decisions about how their decisions affect other people. And if that means ushering in fascism and abuse and violence, there's the reason. Is because they want someone else to come in and take care of this shit, and they'll accept whoever it is as long as they're not made uncomfortable. That is the problem, is that people are choosing not to be intentional and not to be adults. That's the problem. And by the way, we always have to say this. I'm not perfect at it. Listen, I'm not going to leave a bag out when I take my dog walking. I'm not going to leave a grocery cart or whatever. The difference on any given day between being an intentional, empathic adult, it comes down to the decisions. It comes down to making the decision. Oh, that's right. This is more than me. There are other people involved. The world is larger. I'm not the only thing in it. And that is the thing. Every day is a new opportunity to make those choices. Period.
I feel like we live in a country whose mantra has been infantilizing,
100%. Yes.
right? That America, like if you talk to people from other countries that have really lived into like their adulthood in other countries, they look at America as a country of children. Right? That have been infantilized. Oh, it's the home of the brave, but we don't really have to discuss what they're doing abroad. Oh, it's, the land of the free, but we don't actually have to fight for it. Oh, we have this thing called the Constitution, but we don't really ever have to enforce it. Right? We've just been able to just go around la-di-da, right? And to a certain extent, that is rooted in whiteness, right? That has absolutely allowed for there to be this erasure of the harm, of the damage, of the trauma that has been caused in order to make sure that white people are able to move through life la-di-da.
Can I just give a quick example of this? Because I want you to finish your thought, but for people who don't necessarily understand what you're talking about, the entirety of slave owning was to make Black people do the labor so you could sit on your fucking porch and live a lazy lifestyle of wealth accumulation. And it was that genteel lifestyle was all built on, I shouldn't have to do the work. These people have to do the work. And that idea, that didn't go away. Like just because the Emancipation Proclamation happened, it didn't go away. It changed and transferred. But I just wanted to bring that up because I don't think
but it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Because all that happened, right, was an exchange to a certain extent of who was then going to be doing that labor that
100.
that didn't want to be done. And so now those people who are willing to do the hard work, who are willing to be the brunts, right? They're the ones that are being deported. Right? So it's just like, it is a country that is forged on fucking laziness and the idea that I don't have to work for anything. Right? Everything should be instant. And like my mom was saying this the other day. We were talking, my sister, a quick aside, my sister moved to Kenya. She's an international teacher. And and she goes to the dentist the other day and finds that she needs a root canal. So and so she goes to the dentist. She says, oh, give me the gas, right? Like I'll, take the gas. And the woman, the dental hygienist says to her, oh, Americans, we don't do that here. You're going to get Novocaine. You're going to feel some pain because you're getting a fucking root canal. Like the woman didn't say it to her like that, but it's just like this desire for you to bypass the pain that is inside of your body. Like, no, we're going to give you the Novocaine. You'll still feel the pressure because guess what? You're having a root canal. But it's this idea that Americans don't ever want to be subjected to any form of pain. And not only that, but everything else must be instantaneous,
Yep.
right? I used to call it a microwavable society, right? Everything in an instant, your joy, the pain that you have, everything should be done in an instant. And I'm like, and therefore, when you are completely and totally numb, do you know what you don't learn how to do? Deal with any type of pain. You don't grow.
Yep.
And so I'm just like, you watch this around the world, like as they look at America and they're just like, you fucking children. And not only that, it's like the country is only 250 years old, right? So we are a bunch of children in comparison to these nations that have been around for thousands of years.
We are, and I think the analogy is perfect here because when I have conversations in my organizing, and by the way, I'll go ahead and be personal about this before I move into the political. Like, healing is hard. Like, actual healing is hard, and there's a lot of discomfort, and there's a lot of pain. Because one of the things that you have to do is you have to give up on the fairy tales that, like, help the pain, that kept
Yep.
you, like, really looking at, like, what you went through and what your experiences are, and also how you've hurt people and how, like, you've moved through the world. It's very painful, and it is wondrous at the same time because, like, actually living is, again, one of the most miraculous things that could exist. America does need a root canal. And, I like to ask people in my organizing, I say, what is it that you want? And everybody knows. Everybody knows that they want a fairer society. They want a society where people have basic human dignity. They want a society where they have healthcare, all that. The next question is, what are you willing to give to get to that?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say something, and this is going to sound like a little bit of hard, tough love. I think it's great that people are going to go out to protest. But if literally the only thing you're willing to give to change the world is to do something on your Saturday, you're not ready to change the world.
Come on.
You're taking your Saturday, and by the way, we add to it in order to make it feel better, right? There's like a festivity part of it. There's like a, sort of a party feel to it. A revolution in terms of how this country works is going to be hard. And it's going to hurt. There's going to be a lot of discomfort, a lot of fear. There's stuff we're going to have to give up. There's stuff that we're not going to have anymore. And we got it because we exploited people around the world and took over their government. And, like, that is not worth it. Like, for instance, bananas. We're probably not going to have bananas. I love a banana.
I'm like, I have a bunch right now.
But guess what? I would rather not have bananas than to have the people I care about being oppressed and having their lives be a living hell. And that hollowness that we're talking about inside,
Mhm.
I think is preparing us to realize that the things that we have taken for granted, we've taken for granted the way that we got them. And we have to make a decision that we have to change our lives, and that is going to be different, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be painful.
And I know we have like 5 minutes left, and I just want to say this, like, to reiterate what you said about no kings, is that we are not saying not to protest.
No,
We are not saying don't show up because it doesn't matter.
no.
What we are saying is for every single person that is watching this now and the thousands that will watch it after the fact, is that if you are going out with your friends and your family on Saturday in order to show your might, you have got to come up with a plan for October 19th and the days and the months and the years to follow. What are you doing after that? Because one day alone outside is not going to fix a centuries old problem,
Yep.
right? So if you are not then turning that into writing your elected officials, if you're not turning that into who's running for local offices, if you're not turning that into ICE protection classes, which I see folks are doing in Chicago and in Portland and other places, like how to deal with ICE, how to photograph, how to, keep your neighbors safe. If you are not doing something on a day-to-day basis or creating a strategy around your week about like, what am I doing right in this moment? If all you're doing is going to that fucking march and then going to brunch, you are not part of the resistance.
You did it for yourself.
You did it so that you could feel good, you could take some pictures and post it on social media. That is not change.
100% right. And that's the thing we have to take a look at, which is, the description. Like, I like a cold beer on a hot day. Do you know why alcoholics like beer? Not because it tastes good, because it takes away the pain and the loneliness that they need to deal with. And what we're talking about right here is a lot of people who don't want to deal with the pain and the loneliness. And part of changing is looking at the things that have kept us from our pain and our loneliness. And guess what? If you get rid of those things, if you move away from those things, you have to sit with the pain and the loneliness. And that's hard. That's
Yeah.
really hard. Taking actual action is hard. And I am so appreciative of this conversation. I was, it's weird actually. Just in the minute that we have, like, it was very weird. We got on and you were feeling down, and there was a part of me that, like, I think sometimes if you talk to someone who's down, it brings you down. But there are
Yeah.
times I think when you trust a person and they're down, you're like, oh, this is an opportunity to talk about something.
Yes. Yes.
Like, it doesn't have to be a fucking bummer. It's more about what do you do with it.
And
And
that's it. It's not about like you weren't trying to make me feel better. You weren't trying to say, "Hey, Danielle, put on your game face because we're about to we're about to, go live." It's like, "Hey, do you want to talk about this today? Like, let's talk about it." Right? If you're up for it. And that's what we should be doing with each other on a regular basis. Not pretending that we're not feeling like shit, not pretending that the things around us aren't crumbling, not distracting ourselves from it, but like getting to the bottom of it, unpacking it, unearthing it so that we can better deal with what is going on and find solutions to how we really want to be living. So I thank you so, so dearly for today, for this conversation, because I came in feeling heavy. And as always, I'm leaving feeling just a bit lighter.
I cherish you, my friend. And I hope over the next few days you find some joy and replenishment. You deserve it.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much. We'll be back next week. Be safe. Be good.
Be safe.